Hi! Thank you to everyone who left a comment congratulating the fact that we hit episode 100. I totally forgot about it until I started uploading the video. It's been 4 years since I started YouTube, and the first group buy episode was uploaded on April 19th, 2021. Honestly, I didn't really expect that these videos would last this long, so I'm kind of impressed and happy that people are still sticking around to watch these videos. I've said it many times before, and I'm sure I'll say it many more times in the future, but really, thank you for all your support. Anyways, without further ado, PBTfans Origami is a revival of the set ePBT Origami that ran back in May 18th, 2021, which also means that it was in one of the first group buy episodes that I created. It's a simple design that features a white and dark gray theme that doesn't have any flair unless you pick up the novelties kit, which does feature some nice designs. There are some Keycap sets that work well even without the novelties, but this is a set where I feel like the novelties kit is a must buy because otherwise it's just basically a black on white set with Japanese sub-legends. That means that if you pick up the base kit for $65 and the novelties kit for $18, you'd be looking at an $83 total, and I think that's not a bad price. That being said, you could also just easily pick up a set on Amazon for way less that achieves the same aesthetic, though maybe of lower quality compared to PBTfans keycaps. You could also maybe consider just buying the novelties kit and pairing it with another black on white set, but I would be careful since the color might not match. I didn't pick up a set when it ran 4 years ago, and I don't really plan on picking up a set this time either, but I did buy a desk mat that I am still using to this day. It's a quirky design that shows you the steps in folding a paper crane, which is the type of stuff that I like, and I also enjoy the aesthetics. While PBTfans Origami is not the most unique set, and is definitely not groundbreaking, it is a clean and simple set that can match any keyboard. There are definitely cheaper options out there, but if you really like the origami novelties and want to make sure the colors match, PBTfans Origami might just be the set for you. Keycap has been around for quite some time, and while they aren't the largest vendor serving North America, they have been quite consistent in hosting some cool group buys. They were the vendor when I first got my set of PBT Ichigo, which was my first introduction to Milky Way keys. The Lila is Keycap's first in-house keyboard design, with a namesake inspired by the character Lila from Guardians of the Galaxy, though I must admit that other than the name sounding similar, the board doesn't really have any design details to call back to its namesake. The olive branches are supposed to quote-unquote symbolize holy, spiritual, which I guess kinda matches the character's personality, but I don't think it's a strong connection. Other than that, it has a brass or white copper weight bar with Lila engraved on it, though it's not spelled the same way as the character's name either. Not sure if they did that because they preferred that spelling or were afraid of Disney coming after them, but I'm pretty sure that they were not at risk of a lawsuit in the first place. It might sound nitpicky to some people, and I do admit that I probably sound overly harsh. I am someone who really enjoys themed keyboards to see how the designer ties elements of their inspiration into the design, so to see something named after a character but really have no attributes of their inspiration is kinda weird to me. That being said, I do think that the keyboard looks very nice and clean. I would have loved to see another engraving design, or at least an option to not have the name of the keyboard engraved, though that's a small nitpick and not a deal breaker. The Lila will offer 2 different mounting options, top mount or silicone gasket mount, and features a pogo connection for the daughter board, which is a nice touch. It will also be QMK, VIA, and VIAL compatible, which is great as these are industry standards with the hobby and you don't have to rely on some weird custom software. At $209, I think that it's a great deal, especially if you're looking for a nice 60% keyboard. It is against some stiff competition with the QWERTY Keys keyboards being cheaper and still offering great features and looks. But if you already have one and want something new, or maybe want something more unique, as I'm sure many people own QWERTY Keys / Neo Studio keyboards, it's not a bad option. On the other side, the Anka 60 is another keyboard that's currently live on Keycap that was inspired by the Yu-Gi-Oh cards Monster Reborn and Gold Sarcophagus. Unlike the Lila, the inspiration is quite clear with that weight design, but other than that, the board side profile and top case are quite simplistic in design. The Anka 60 features a regular 60% layout with 2 5-key macro columns, one on the right and one on the left. Macro columns are quite useful, though sometimes you might not have the right keys to slot them in. As a result, each order of the Anka 60 will include 10 relegendables made by Milky Way keys, though you will only have the options of black or beige. Either way, I think that it's quite the nice gesture and makes a nice little gift for group buy participants. There aren't too many color options for the group buy, though I think 6 options is still plenty, and I do like the color combos that the designer went with. Additional top and bottom cases are not being offered as extras, though you can upgrade or buy an additional internal or external weight if you want to change up the styling. Unlike the Lila, the Anka 60 only offers one mounting style, top mount, which tends to be stiffer than gasket mount. I do know a lot of people who actually prefer that typing feel and enjoy the sound it provides, so it's a matter of personal preference. With prices starting at $277, the Anka 60 appears to be quite the compelling package, especially if you're a fan of Yu-Gi-Oh! Or want something that looks Egyptian themed. If you're on the fence between the 2 boards, I think the 2 biggest factors that you should consider are layout and mounting style. If you prefer a softer, bouncier typing feel, or want the ability to switch it up and don't like extra macro columns, then the Lila is probably the board for you. However, if you don't care about the ability to change mounting styles and like the extra functionality that macro keys provide, then I think the Anka 60 is probably worth the extra bit of cash for you. The ESU67 is a new keyboard from a collaboration between EZoo Studio and Bat Knight Studio. I first became aware of Bat Knight Studio with their BK75 and then later the BK100. Both were plastic keyboards sold by Velocifier and looked to be pretty standard designs, though the one thing that stood out for me was the wrist rest, which had the ability to unfold and sit on top of the keyboard, acting as a dust cover. It was a cool concept, though I didn't pull the trigger because I didn't really want another plastic keyboard. Now, with a new collaboration partner, the design studios have worked together to essentially create a 65% version, though this time with a fully aluminum case. In that sense, it's not really revolutionary considering that the design has existed for a while, but I think the upgrade to aluminum, while coming in at $239, makes this quite the interesting proposition. While it is over $100 more than the previous plastic keyboards, I feel like you can't really complain all that much since it is a material upgrade, and the price point still positions it towards the budget end of the custom keyboard hobby. It comes with an aluminum wrist rest with some cool features, such as swappable panels so you can change the place you rest your wrists for leather or carbon fiber, and a Hall effect sensor so that when the wrist rest is in dust cover mode, the keyboard powers off to save battery, and when you unfold it, the keyboard powers on automatically. The keyboard itself has a magnetic construction system for easy disassembly, and tri-mode connectivity with QMK and VIA support so you don't have to deal with custom software. I can't really vouch for the quality of the keyboard since I don't have any of their previous products nor this one on hand, and the manufacturing of plastic cases and metal cases are quite different, so that will be a risk you'll have to be willing to take. That being said, it is being sold through ClickClack, which I have had positive experiences with, so hopefully you'll be able to get product support if you encounter any issues. If you've been looking for a 65% keyboard with a nice feature set and a wrist rest to go along with it that also has some pretty cool tricks up its sleeve, the ESU67 might be the keyboard for you.